Hi. The actual subject that I'm talking about today, restorative justice, that breaks boundaries. You know, we're told when there's crime or when there's conflict, the first thing that happens is that people are separated. People are taken apart. They're not allowed to talk about their conflict. They're not allowed to be together. The concept of that, the idea of that is actually quite challenging for an awful lot of people. So what restorative practice does is break those boundaries. It's saying, no, hang on a minute. How can the person that has hurt you understand how they've hurt you and the impact that they've had on you without you telling them? And how are you able to get your feelings, your questions, your thoughts through and be able to move on and move forward without telling the person that's hurt you the impact that it's had on you, your family, your friends, your loved ones? So that's what restorative justice is about. It's about communicating, enabling people to communicate about the harm that's been caused. I'll go through that, but just before I start going through about what restorative justice is and the people that inspired me, I just want to tell you a little bit about my journey. I've been very, very lucky. I've known from a very young age exactly what I've wanted to do. I've always wanted to work for the prison service. So I know where that came from, I haven't got a clue. My dad owns a carpet company and my mum works for a builder. So I honestly haven't got a clue where the prison service came from, but from about the age of 14, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to run a jail. So that is what I then dedicated my life to, my studies to, my A-level projects, education in prisons. I then went on, had a year out, highly recommend it, went on to study criminology at university. And it's about, I think it's about finding something, whenever you find it, and whether it's 14, whether it's 30, or whether you're constantly looking for it, it's about finding that thing that ignites your passion, something that really makes you passionate. And prisons is something that really makes me passionate. So I chose that as my subject of study, did my degree, then after my degree I thought, right, I can't go and work in a prison at 18, sorry, I'd be 21 by then, 21 years old with sort of very, very little life experience, trying to motivate people to change their lives. How arrogant is that of me to think that I can motivate somebody else to change their life without having lived it all myself? So I then went off and did a little bit more living. And then I, tried a couple of different jobs, lived in New Zealand for a couple of years, just to make sure that this is definitely what I wanted to do. I then came back. I was actually listening to a song on the radio, and the words in it sort of resonated with me. It was like, suddenly I see. I can't remember this song, and I can't sing. So, but yeah, and that was, this is what I want to be. They're the words of the song. So I went off a week later. I heard that song on the radio, and I thought, right, now this is it. I'm going for it. This is definitely what I want to do. So I went to University of Sheffield to do my master's, specialised in prison studies and restorative justice. This is where I came across restorative justice. Read all the textbooks in theory. It's something that really, really inspired me because I'm quite a vocal person. If somebody's upset me, I want to tell them they've upset me and why they've upset me and get them to understand that. So this is something that really, really resonated with me. I have to get on and get through this quickly because the time's ticking down quite rapidly. But yeah, just find something, find your dreams, find something that really, really inspires you. And this is going to be lots of short clips about the people that have inspired me and continue to inspire me. And if there's time at the end, I'll tell you a little bit about... Okay, so this is just a definition of restorative justice. This is the official definition. Restorative practice is a process with all parties with a stake in a particular incident come together to resolve collectively how to deal with the aftermath of the incident and the implications for the future. So as I've said, we're bringing together these people that have been affected by conflict or crime, and we're not telling them what to do. We're not telling them how to resolve that conflict or how they can make things better. We're enabling them to do it. We're enabling them to talk about what's happened and how they can make things better and how they can stop this happening again in the future. Okay, at the moment, the court deals with the offence. There's this fantastic book I read, Niles Christie, Conflicts as Property. It's basically saying that the state at the moment steals the offence and deals with it. You as an individual are just going along on a journey. You have no sort of say in what happens with your conflict. The offender doesn't take responsibility for what's happened. Yes, they may be punished, they may go to prison or whatever, but they don't know the impact that that's had on you. And they don't necessarily take responsibility for the harm that's been caused. The offender doesn't get a chance to apologise. Quite often, I'm working with offenders that feel extremely guilty about what they've done. They said, I really wanted to apologise to the person that I'd harmed, but they're told to keep away, they're told not to have any contact. The victim doesn't get a chance to say how they feel or to ask questions to the offender. We have this thing now called a victim impact statement. However, still, there's a case that I'm working on at the moment, and it was the father, his son had been killed. It was after a Friday night fight, spilled out of a club. 2 young lads were fighting. One punched another, and he fell and hit his head, and he died. Now, the father of this boy, he wanted to read his impact statement, his victim impact statement, but he wasn't given that opportunity in court. He still hasn't had his say. He still needs to have his say. The victim is left scared of an image rather than the reality of the offender. The media portrays offenders as these big, bad, scary people, not people, even monsters, that we sort of lock away behind these walls because they don't deserve to be out in society. They're people. People in prison are people like you and me, our brothers, our sisters, whoever. They're just people. And both parties are told not to communicate. Okay, RJ, Restorative Justice, is not offered everywhere. It's sort of postcode lottery at the moment about whether you're offered the opportunity to participate in a restorative intervention. Okay. You still feel shocked at what happened. You still have the feeling that somebody is in the house now. I never felt angry, just sad. You wish you didn't feel scared in your own home. Every time you hear a noise, you think of the burglary. Every time you go to bed, you think, where's my ring? Where's my computer and my other possessions? It's what you think about every night.
My wife came to set me in hospital, and as I put the key in the door, I suddenly had a fear that there would be somebody at the other side of the door. And it happened day after day after day. It's not a very nice feeling to read, that, you feel scared.
I'd never thought about the victims. I just sat in my cell, went to work and got on with my time. After reading about how bad the victims felt, I began to think about what I had done. I felt ashamed of what I'd done. I wanted to start from the beginning again. I wanted to be able to say sorry for what I'd done and to help them make them feel better.
Nervous. I was just lying on my bed in my cell thinking, oh, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it.
It's a very nerve-wracking thing for offenders to do. They don't want to facing the person that you have harmed most is a very scary thing to do. Going to prison and not having to think about it, putting it in a box, people say that that's a very different thing to do to having to face up to what you've done. You know, if any of you have done something wrong, how much guts it takes to go up to that person and say, I'm sorry, I did this, I shouldn't have done that. Okay, the actual conference. Victims stated that they felt a certain trepidation prior to meeting the offender. The initial part of the contact was slightly tense. As the talking progressed, there was a recognition that it would be good if we continued to talk. I was nervous about meeting the man who had broken into our house and had caused so much distress. I felt that by expressing my anguish to him, I had made an impression on him, what it must have felt like being vulnerable. The offender stated, it made me realise the impact I had on them and the other victims. I now realise the damage my actions have caused and the anxiety and depression that I've put people through. I'm truly sorry for the damage that I've caused. Now, these videos might play in slightly the wrong order, so I apologise for that.
Yes, I think the realisation, I started to realise that, I mean, the person who actually stole the laptop was not the baddie I expected to meet. That in fact he was he was a normal person. He fitted in society just as well as I did. He had a family, and he was really an ordinary chap that went wrong somewhere down the line.
And also, it's a bit more informal, if you know what I'm saying. It just gives you more of a feeling of the person you're talking to. You know, you can understand what they're saying, where they're coming from. Because I don't think in court I'd have got an opportunity to say what I felt about the situation. It gave me a good insight into what he felt. I mean, I felt that he was talking, like, what he was saying was coming from the heart, rather than just hearing what he was saying in court. I could hear what he actually felt about the situation. And also I think we managed to get across our point of view to him about how we felt about the situation.
It was a challenge, and a lot of good things can happen out of this, as far as I'm concerned, because it made me think more differently, understand, open my mind to a lot of things, how the victim felt, and why did I not ask for help in the first place, and that sort of thing.
He come in and he shook my hand. I was surprised then. That's it.
Why were you surprised?
Because if I just robbed your house, would you shake my hand?
Okay. I'm using videos to illustrate the power of restorative practice, because I think that the people that have been through the process can explain it so much better, their thoughts and feelings, than I can.
And he started listing all the things that I've done, and he also started listing his feelings.
You broke into my house. You destroyed my one belief that I had, which is my ability to protect my family, my house, from people like you, and you did it in one fell swoop.
I never knew it made people feel sad, angry, bad, depressed, isolated, guilty about things I'd done. Yeah, I didn't know. It was like a flow of emotions started coming out, and I never realised it. I just never realised the damage I'd done. I never realised the harms I'd caused. I never realised how many people it affected. When you hear the damage, what you have done, when you hear the harm you've caused, you've got to be a very, very bitter and twisted human being if this doesn't affect you. You've got to be a sicko. They don't get no input into it, and there's questions that need answering, and they can't possibly answer these questions unless they meet the harmer, the wrongdoer, the villain of the piece.
Peter was just, I mean, it was like a train hitting him. You could see that he thought, God, you know, I've done this. Here was a man who was genuinely affected by what we had said. In a court of law, the victim sits in the public gallery. He, she, his family, his loved ones are the most affected by this crime, and then the least involved in the process. And that's all this is bringing people around. Well, it happened to be a prison table, but I mean, it could be anywhere, and having them saying, well, why did you do that? You know, do you understand how that affected me? Do you understand how that affects other people?
Okay, so how do people feel after going through this emotional experience? Victim stated, I can sleep again now. It was a great success for all. It helped us to express our feelings and to move forward from the event. It allowed us to deal with the hurt and the anger. Because quite often before going through this process, victims are left in a place with, they've still got all this emotion, they've still got all this anger, they haven't been able to get it out, haven't been able to put it out there and tell the person that harmed them how they've harmed them. And likewise, offenders haven't had the opportunity to hear that and to move forward. Quite often this is a motivation to change for offenders once they realise the impact.
We have become, both of us, utter converts to restorative justice, to restorative approaches, to bringing offenders and victims together.
Because of that conference, it initiated change, it implemented change. I implemented the change, but it sort of gave me the kickstart I needed. You know, I can't express gratitude enough for the Restorative Justice programme, and I've got to leave it there for a minute.
Okay, so these are just a few of the people that have inspired me to do what I do and to continue my work. I started as a prison officer in the prison, and I went to the governor and I said, there's this thing called Restorative Justice, this is what it is, please can I set up a project doing this? The first governor I spoke to said no. Luckily, he left, we got a new governor in, I did the same, went to the next governor. He said, yes, go for it. As long as you find the funding for your salary, I'll release you to do this project. So it was a yes, but a yes with a but. So I then went off and I managed to secure some funding for the project. Not much, just 20 grand, but from the local criminal justice board for the project. So we did that, and then from there we started the project in Gloucester Prison. And through that success and through not these people specifically, but people like these and many, many people like these, it inspired me to keep going and to keep giving people the opportunity to communicate in this way. So we've supported people, as I've said, across the prison service as well, to set up and run other similar projects like this. We're now, the vision developed, I had the vision from the start of a restorative county that every victim should be entitled to a restorative intervention. Anyone that comes into contact with the criminal justice system should be entitled to a restorative intervention. It's not for everyone, but you should be entitled to it if you want it. So from there, this is what we've now set up in the county. We've got, it's called Restorative Gloucestershire. We've brought together all partners in the county, from police, courts, probation, to prisons, victim support. We've brought these organisations all together, and we're now collectively offering restorative interventions at all stages of the criminal justice system to everyone. So we've come on in a couple of years, huge boundaries, and now it's very politically relevant. We've got the green paper, Breaking the Cycle, and prison and probation service are looking at national implementation. We've got neighbourhood justice panels, so restorative justice. We've been really driving this forward and really working to give people this opportunity, and it's there. So basically, if you want to achieve it, if you've got a dream, if you've got a vision, if you can see it and people keep saying, no, you can't do it because of funding, no, you can't do it because of this, you can do it. I've done it. I'm now running a county-wide project implementing this intervention, and that started from one question: please, can I do this? Go for it.